Hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today here at 1 o'clock. We're just going to give a few more seconds for folks to connect before we get started. While you're waiting, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. You can access that by clicking on the speech bubble icon at the bottom of your screen. Just a note that the default setting is set to send a message to all panelists, but you can also select the option to send to all panelists and attendees if you'd like to broadcast your message to the entire audience. As we start off today's session, a reminder that we are recording the webinar and it will be available on our website in just a few weeks. And in the short term, we'll also be providing you with access to a few key slides as a takeaway resource. Seeing lots of names coming in the chat, which is great. Thanks everyone for introducing yourselves. I think our numbers are starting to slow down a little bit, so I will go ahead and kick things off. So once again, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. On behalf of FCM, I'd like to begin the session by acknowledging that we are meeting on lands that have been inhabited by Indigenous peoples for thousands of years. And we at FCM recognize the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people as the traditional custodians of the land upon which FCM's offices are located and where I myself am currently situated. And we also recognize the contributions of Métis, Inuit, and all First Nations, both in shaping and strengthening the community and the country as a whole. So wherever you are, please join me in paying our respects to the original stewards of this land and committing ourselves to thoughts and actions that will lead to meaningful reconciliations wherever we live now. So I'd encourage you, if you feel comfortable doing so, to please add your own acknowledgements to the chat. It's great to see so many people introducing themselves as well. So today we have what I hope will be an interesting and exciting presentation for all of you on financing home energy upgrades in your community. My name is Yvonne Ritchie. I work with the Green Municipal Fund on our capacity development team, and I'll be your moderator for today. So I'll start us off with a brief introduction to FCM and the Green Municipal Fund, and then transition over to our speakers of the day. So as many of you know, I'm sure the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, or FCM, is the national voice of local governments in Canada. And FCM's mandate is really about delivering programs that help build municipalities' capacity to do what they do best, deliver innovative, cost-effective, and local solutions to environmental challenges and to enhance quality of life for citizens. The Green Municipal Fund is our largest program and is funded by the Government of Canada, and it has a double mandate to support municipal initiatives in sustainable development through funding, as well as to share knowledge and lessons learned through online resources and tools, trainings, peer learning, and other networking activities. Over the past 20 years, GMF has supported initiatives centered on waste, water, energy, land use, and transportation, which is what we typically refer to as our core funding program. And in addition to this core funding, GMF's mandate also grew in 2019 to include 4 new initiatives: community efficiency financing, sustainable affordable housing, the upcoming Community Buildings Retrofit Initiative, and Low Carbon Cities Canada, all of which aim to achieve significant GHG reductions at the local level. Today, we'll be focusing on the Community Efficiency Financing Initiative, or CEF for short. Our goal today is to introduce this initiative to you and to answer as many of your questions as possible. So we'll cover what local financing programs are, and we'll talk about some of the benefits that they have, the challenges that they can help you overcome. We'll talk about some examples of different financing programs in Canada that you can look to for inspiration and to get tips for success. And then we'll talk about the community efficiency financing offer itself. So how does GMF support municipalities and their partners in planning, developing, launching, and scaling up your own financing programs? Very briefly, before we dive into the content, we have a short poll with a couple of questions, which we're going to launch on screen now. And that's just to help us better understand who's joining us online today. It's great to see so many people contributing to the chat as well. But 2 quick questions for you is where are you joining from today? So which province or territory, as well as what type of organization do you work for? So municipality, a nonprofit, private sector, or so on. So we'll give a few more seconds there for folks to answer. So far, I'm seeing fairly good representation across the board. Lots of folks from Ontario, as well as a few from BC, from the Atlantic provinces, a couple from Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan, Quebec, and a lot from municipalities, as well as a few from nonprofit and private sector as well. So we'll end the polling there. Great. So without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce two of our staff members here at GMF, Jim Wren and Jasmine Burdett. Jim and Jasmine are both members of our program's outreach team, and their goal is to help equip you with the resources that you need to develop successful financing programs. Both Jim and Jasmine bring a wealth of experience working with Canadian municipalities across the country on sustainability initiatives, and they're both passionate about building sustainable, affordable, and well-designed communities. As part of our outreach team, they are your #1 resource for any questions that you may have about the SEF funding offer. So Jim, Jasmine, thank you both for being here, and I will now hand the floor over to you.
So thank you for that introduction, Yvonne, and welcome everyone. To start, I'll get into our very first question, which is, what are local financing programs and how can they benefit my community? So to help answer that question, it's important to first look at some of the context around why energy upgrades are so important and the value of concentrating on the residential sector. So in Canada, a significant portion of greenhouse gas emissions actually comes from energy use in buildings. So that means that buildings are likely identified as one of the top 2 priority areas for action alongside transportation in your municipality's local climate change action plan. And considering that buildings are generally around for several decades, if not centuries, tackling energy use in existing buildings is essential to achieving local and national greenhouse gas targets. Fortunately, improving the energy efficiency of existing buildings is also a tremendous opportunity to make the places we live and work more comfortable, more affordable, and healthier overall. In taking a closer look at the residential sector, statistics show that the majority of homes in Canada were built before the introduction of modern building codes. As a result, the average Canadian single-family dwelling consumes about 20% more energy than new homes built today. And on average, residents in these older homes pay about $300 more per year on their utility bills. So financing programs are also a great way to meet a number of community priorities. Next slide, please. As mentioned earlier, it can help tackle climate change and drive significant energy and greenhouse gas savings, considering that residential buildings often account for up to a quarter of a community's emissions. Financing programs can also play a role in leading a sustainable post-pandemic economic recovery. Since the market for home retrofits is inherently local, it requires the participation of local energy advisors, local suppliers, local contractors. Energy financing programs can stimulate a significant investment in a green economy at the municipal level and drive demand across the energy sector, all while creating new quality jobs. In addition to improving the energy performance of homes, a financing program can also be used to promote other types of renovations, including climate adaptation measures to protect homes against extreme weather events, as well as water conservation, accessibility, and other health and safety improvements. In short, an energy financing program can be a powerful tool that improves the quality and value of the existing housing stock, while spurring sustainable economic growth, improving public health, and contributing to climate change objectives. So why haven't we seen more widespread home energy upgrades across Canada? Well, for one, many of the decisions around whether to invest in energy upgrades rests on the shoulders of the homeowners. And even when residents are interested in improving their home energy performance, there's a range of uncertainties and barriers that can discourage them. This can include anything from the high upfront costs of renovations to understanding which improvements to make, finding reliable contractors to do the work, making sense of how it will impact their energy bills, and whether they will recoup their investment if they choose to eventually sell their property. A financing program can address all these barriers for home retrofits since they're designed to offer an easy, streamlined process for homeowners while reducing the uncertainty associated with many of these decisions. So taking all of this into account, what do we actually mean when we talk about a home energy financing program? At its core, a financing program for home energy upgrades is a way of connecting homeowners with financing options and other services so that they're empowered to improve the energy performance of their home through energy efficiency measures and renewable energy installations, depending on the focus of the program. In looking more closely at financing programs, it's also important to highlight how they're different from rebate and other types of incentive programs. So essentially, a rebate covers a portion of a specific piece of equipment or home energy audit, whereas financing programs cover the full upfront costs of the renovation, which allows homeowners to use cost savings from the upgrades to slowly pay back their loan over time. Still, efforts to improve the energy performance of the existing housing stock are most effective when the two approaches are combined. As mentioned, financing programs lower the upfront costs for home energy upgrades and improve the terms of repayment, while rebates drive down some of those costs themselves. Taken together, financing programs with rebates can make deep retrofits more feasible and more affordable for homeowners. At the same time, it's important to highlight that the financing component is only one part of a well-designed program. Administrators can play a key role in supporting homeowners at every stage by facilitating access to a range of resources and supports, like a list of qualified contractors and energy advisors, and an overview of available incentives. This suite of services helps homeowners not only navigate the renovation process, but increase the confidence in the expected results and quality of the work completed. So as you see on the slide, we've provided an overview of the homeowner experience within a typical financing program. So the first step would be when an interested homeowner hires a certified energy advisor to complete a pre-renovation assessment of their home through an in-person walkthrough. Then the energy advisor would prepare a report identifying a series of recommendations to improve energy performance. It would also establish a standardized EnerGuide rating. The homeowner would then go about hiring a contractor to undertake the renovations, and they'd also apply for financing to cover the upfront costs of the selected upgrades. Keep in mind that access to financing and other incentives is normally facilitated through the program supports. So once financing has been arranged and the contractors have completed their work, the energy advisor would come back for a post-renovation assessment of the home to highlight the impact of the upgrades. At the very end, the contractor would receive full payment for their work at no extra cost to the homeowner. Depending on the program model and design, the homeowner would pay back the amount over time based on an agreed upon schedule. So there's a few different models for how financing flows work, and we'll talk about those in just a few moments. So there's a variety of repayment models that can be used to support home energy upgrades. The first we'll talk about is Property Assessed Clean Energy, or PACE for short, which is one of the better known options. PACE programs use a municipality's ability to impose a local improvement charge on individual properties. Homeowners are then responsible for repaying the cost of their upgrades through an extra charge on their property tax bill. An interesting feature of PACE programs is that the property serves as collateral, so the cost of renovations is actually tied to a property, not a person. So what this means is that the upgrade costs can easily be transferred to a new homeowner at time of sale. Third-party financing models are another option and involve developing a partnership with a lender. These models typically take one of two forms. On-bill financing models allow the cost of home energy upgrades to be repaid via the homeowner's utility bill. This type of program requires the close partnership of a utility company, and depending on the legislation in place, this type of financing may or may not be transferable at time of sale. Alternatively, communities using a direct lending approach are able to offer customized financing products through a local credit union or other financial institution. I would just highlight that with support from GMF's credit enhancement stream, municipalities can de-risk a financial institution's loan investments in exchange for attractive rates, longer repayment terms, and a convenient homeowner application process. So next slide. While local governments are uniquely positioned to support a financing program that's tailored to meet the needs of their residents and the broader community, the type of financing model that is best suited to them will depend on a range of factors, including the role the municipality would like to play in program administration, the potential delivery partners in the region, and the regulatory context. So to that last point, PACE programs require enabling legislation at the provincial or territorial level. To our knowledge, PACE enabling legislation has been adopted in the Yukon, Northwest Territories, Alberta, Ontario, and Nova Scotia, and will actually come into effect later on this year in Saskatchewan. It's also worth noting that Quebec and British Columbia have PACE-style programs, which have been piloted to demonstrate a working model in the absence of clear enabling legislation. So the landscape is changing. Municipalities without PACE enabling legislation can undertake other types of financing programs that use third-party lending, including partnering with a local utility or with a financial institution. Third-party financing models are also well suited to municipalities that would like to play a more limited role or who lack the internal capacity to administer a program themselves. However, if a utility-led model is chosen, you'll need to confirm they have the authority to engage in this type of program, and that's often determined by the province. So this map shows areas where third-party financing programs are currently proposed, operating, or have existed in the past, namely BC, Manitoba, Ontario, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland. So moving on to the next portion of the presentation, what do successful financing programs look like? Although PACE and third-party financing models are still relatively new in Canada, there are a number of communities who are already leading the way with these types of programs. So to start things off, the FIM program, or Financement Innovateur pour des Municipalités Efficaces, was established in Placyville, Varennes, and Verchères to pilot the PACE model for home energy upgrades, and is the first program of its kind in Quebec. FIM was a collaborative effort between a number of parties, including the 3 municipalities who helped manage the financing for homeowners, l'Association québécoise pour la maîtrise de l'énergie, or AQME, who administered and oversaw the program, and an NGO called Ecohabitation, who provided technical coaching and support for homeowners. Though they're a small community of 6,500 residents, the city of Placyville was a PACE project champion in Quebec, was able to achieve impressive results. Their pilot, which ran between 2016 and 2019, offered loan amounts of up to $20,000 at low interest rates and with a 20-year repayment period. The program in Placyville was able to achieve average energy savings of $1,200 to $1,500 per year per household, as well as a 31% reduction in energy, 25 to 30% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, and an 11% reduction in water consumption across the community. Although there's a lack of clarity on the use of the PACE mechanism within Quebec's legislation, these types of small-scale programs are a way to build momentum for legislative change. Placyville also recently presented at another webinar hosted by FCM, so we'll share the link in the chat if you'd like to learn more. In Nova Scotia, and actually I think they may be in attendance today. Clean Foundation's Clean Energy Financing Program is an example of a regional approach to PACE financing that relies on efficiencies of scale to achieve program success. In this model, communities across Nova Scotia with limited capacity to operate their own PACE programs are able to opt into a turnkey model administered by Clean Foundation, which is a non-governmental environmental charity. As of 2019, 7 municipalities were participating in the program, including Bridgewater, Amherst, and Cumberland County. The program is continuing to expand with new municipalities across the province and has seen increasing uptake from residents, often through word of mouth. Much like Placyville, the Clean Energy Financing Program aims to reduce energy poverty and greenhouse gas emissions, create jobs in energy efficiency and renewable energy economy, and promote social equity. And although it varies by municipality, the program generally offers loans between $10,000 and $25,000 with a 10-year payback period and a 4 to 4.95% interest rate. The program operates with the goal of achieving a 1-to-1 debt-to-savings ratio so that the cost of borrowing for homeowners is less than or equal to their estimated energy savings. Another key component of the program is its focus on skills training and knowledge sharing. Clean Foundation is currently working with a trade partner network to build up the capacity of energy retrofit professionals with expertise in PACE financing in the province. This includes workshops and training for contractors and energy advisors on deep energy and net zero retrofits, as well as for municipal staff on marketing and other aspects of PACE programs. Lastly, the region of Durham's upcoming Home Energy Savings Program, which we'll talk about in the next slide, please. It's an example of a third-party lending program. This model incorporates two approaches: utility on-bill financing that'll be made available to residents in the city of Oshawa, where financing will be provided by the Oshawa Power and Utilities Corporation. For homeowners in the rest of the region, Durham's program will also offer financing through partnering credit unions. As with a number of other financing programs in Canada, Durham plans to hire an external organization to administer the program across the region. So now I'll hand it over to Jim to finish up the presentation.
Great, thank you, Jasmine. And thank you everyone for joining us today. It was great to see all familiar names joining the webinar. So although there are many great examples of financing programs to turn to for inspiration, this is still an emerging sector in Canada. Next up, we'll talk about how the Green Municipal Fund can help you with your own financing program. GMF's Community Efficiency Financing Initiative is a $300 million program of programs designed to offer funding and learning resources to communities for local financing programs. More specifically, CEF aims to unlock new approaches to supporting residential retrofits by using innovative models like PACE, utility on bill, and third-party lending, as seen in the examples we previously shared. Our permanent standing offer was launched on March 1st and will be accepting applications on a rolling basis. As we'll see in the next slides, the CEF initiative supports projects throughout the life cycle of planning, implementing, and expanding community scale programs. The CEF initiative has two main objectives. One is providing triple bottom line benefits, helping to reduce energy use and GHG intensity in buildings, support local job creation and housing affordability, and improve building quality and quality of life for residents. The second objective is centered around market transformation. CEF aims to help provide proof of concept for these different financing models in Canada, grow existing programs, and expand the market by building confidence and expertise to be able to attract private capital to these programs. Two types of applicants are eligible to apply directly to the Green Municipal Fund. Municipal governments, of course, and municipal partners, including municipally owned corporations, not-for-profit organizations, and private sector entities. Homeowners are specifically excluded from applying, although they will be direct beneficiaries of CEF-supported programs once they have been launched. Provincial, territorial, or federal governments and any corporations they own or control are also not eligible to apply. However, they may ultimately be involved in local financing programs and could be paid by eligible applicants to undertake work related to program design or delivery. CEF supports local financing programs for home energy upgrades and meets several key eligibility criteria. This includes a focus on existing low-rise residential properties such as detached, semi-detached, or row houses. In addition, although GMF or the Green Municipal Fund does not require that programs focus on a specific list of energy upgrades, each program should develop its own eligible measures list to improve energy efficiency, install renewable energy, or encourage fuel switching. Our application guide includes a list of eligible measures that can help guide you. CEF also supports, to a lesser extent, non-energy improvements such as measures to improve health and safety, increase water use efficiency, adapt to climate change, and other alternatives like EV charging stations and battery storage. Finally, as discussed, CEF supports financing models like PACE or third-party financing, or a combination. The goal of CEF funding and capacity building is to support municipalities and their partners through all stages of program design and delivery. Although a range of activities go into program design and delivery, we can generally group these activities into several stages. CEF offers funding for feasibility studies and program design studies, which cover the initial exploration of program options and the detailed planning for how the program will operate. CEF also supports program launch, operations, and scaling up, with funding available to capitalize initial program launch and ongoing operations, for studies to evaluate the impact of existing programs and how they can be improved, and to recapitalize programs that are poised for greater impact. Within the study stream, applications are eligible for grants worth up to $175,000 to cover up to 80% of eligible costs. You may be interested in applying for a feasibility study if you're in the early stages of exploring different financing models and assessing the market potential. Program design studies are the next step and help plan out the details of how to launch and implement a new program. Lastly, evaluation studies are geared towards existing programs, either at the interim stage or at the very end, and are intended to help assess past performance and identify opportunities for improvement. A feasibility study is the first step and is intended to answer the question of why. Develop a financing program. It involves collecting data on your community's needs, the potential impact of a home upgrade financing program, and the different financing options available. Key topics to address in a feasibility study may include the types of homes in your community, their energy and GHG profile, the potential local benefits that could be achieved through upgrades, the specific barriers it would help address, the existing energy efficiency incentives and programs in your jurisdiction and their level of uptake, contractor capacity to undertake home energy upgrades at scale, available financing models within the context of municipal law, and initial engagement of potential program partners. Once you have completed initial feasibility work, you can apply for funding to undertake detailed program design. This involves thinking through all aspects of a home upgrade financing program so that it is ready for launch. This work also sets up program bylaws, usually required by provincial territorial legislation to permit the introduction of a new program. This second step answers the question of how to roll out your program. The program design study should cover a range of design considerations related to the startup and operation of your program. Some items you may consider addressing in the study are details on your overall approach, such as who will be eligible for the program, the types of upgrades it will support, and financing model you will use, the sources you will use for capital and administration funding, and your budgets, of course, a range of program activities, including setting out a program logic model, and the roles of the different stakeholders you would have engaged during the feasibility study stage. It is also an opportunity to determine how you will manage program administration, monitoring evaluation, risk management, and other important aspects of program implementation. The third type of study, program evaluation studies, help assess and review the performance of an existing program. The study is an opportunity to evaluate how the program has performed and identify opportunities for improvement, all of which can help set the direction for the future of the program. Evaluation studies will typically consider both an evaluation of the program processes, or how the program has been managed, operated, and the program impacts, including key performance indicators like energy savings, GHG reductions, and number of participants. If you are ready to launch a new program or to scale up an existing program, CEF offers two different funding options to support you. Depending on your program delivery model, one may be more attractive than the other. The first is a low interest loan option, up to a maximum of $10 million. The loan is also paired with a grant of up to 50% of the loan amount. This helps to support startup and operating costs for a period of up to 4 years, during which the local program is expected to launch and finance home upgrade projects. The second option is a credit enhancement, up to a maximum of $2 million. It may be the first time you hear about credit enhancements, but they can be an interesting alternative to traditional loans. Credit enhancements are essentially a pool of funds available to cover a portion of losses associated with non-payment of loans. These are beneficial in a third-party financing model with a private lender providing capital because they help to de-risk that lender's investment. They would allow applicants to negotiate with financial institutions to offer more favorable borrowing terms to participating homeowners. Also keep in mind that CEF applications for credit enhancements must satisfy a minimum of 5-to-1 leverage ratio. So what that means is that a $2 million credit enhancement from GMF should be able to mobilize at least $10 million or 5 times that amount in private capital. As with the loan option, the credit enhancement option can include a grant of up to $5 million for startup and operating costs. On a limited basis, CEF also offers pilot funding for exceptional project proposals with strong potential for market transformation. These grants are designated for applicants who are unable to access funding through the capital program and are looking to demonstrate proof of concept for a new or innovative approach in their local context. Pilot funding is up to $500,000 and covers up to 50% of eligible costs. The information about how to apply for funding is posted on our website at fcm.ca/community efficiency financing. If you are interested in applying for funding, there is a 3-stage application process. First, review the application guide and initial proposal form available online. The initial proposal includes basic information that will help us assess whether your study is eligible. Next, complete the initial proposal form and submit it to the Green Municipal Fund. We will get back to you within 15 business days or less to confirm your eligibility and with a copy of the full application and project workbook. Finally, complete the full application. We will process applications on a continuous basis so you can apply as soon as you're ready. In addition to funding, the CEF initiative offers a suite of capacity building resources and activities to help your community design and deliver effective programs that are built on best practices and are tailored to your local context. For example, the GMF Help Desk is your go-to resource to ask questions about CEF funding and connect with the right resources and people to advance your local program. We've developed an online resource library that curates the most relevant resources related to community efficiency financing and existing programs across Canada. This library will be built over time to include program design and implementation tools and templates, and other online materials, courses, and trainings. Stay tuned for an upcoming regional webinar series to learn about what's possible in your jurisdiction and talk with local communities and partners that are implementing programs. CEF participants will have access to an online community of practice and in-person events to connect and exchange with other municipalities and program partners at various stages of program design and implementation. Please note you can use CEF grant funding to pay for staff time and travel costs to participate in these peer learning activities. CEF applicants also have access to subject matter experts to answer technical questions related to program design and implementation. As a CEF funding recipient, you will also receive national recognition as a leader in community efficiency financing. FCM will share the results and lessons learned from your program with other municipalities and stakeholders to help build on and scale up successful models of local efficiency financing programs across Canada. You may be invited to share your experiences with other communities through online meetings, case studies, or other activities. If you're interested in learning a little more about the funding opportunity, please reach out to myself or Jasmine. We'd be more than happy to speak with you. You can contact us at gmfinfo@fcm.ca anytime, or at the number shared on your screen. You can also access our website at fcm.ca/community efficiency financing. And to stay up to date on all funding programs and resources at FCM, please subscribe to our weekly newsletter. To help us understand how we can best support those of you who are interested in learning more or are actively designing or launching a financing program, please share your feedback in the chat. So that wraps up our presentation portion of today's session, and I believe I will pass it on to Yvonne again.
Yes, thanks very much, Jim, and thank you, Jasmine, for your presentation. We still have lots of time for questions, so we're going to get to those in short order. As Jim said, please also feel free to add any comments to the chat if you have questions or thoughts about how our funding and resources might be able to help you, where you're still looking for more information or other ways that we can help you to learn more about or to support you in the design and launch of financing programs. So I'm seeing a number of questions coming in now. I'm going to start with some of the ones that came in during the presentations, which are a little bit more of a clarification questions on some of the specifics. For the application side of things, one of the questions that came in was whether or not applications can come across multiple jurisdictions. So for example, could multiple regional districts apply, or a combination of regional districts and municipalities?
Sure, I'll answer that one. Of course, that would be great. There's definitely different things that you can consider when exploring your options. Some, PACE and other types of financing models work very well when it's really catered to the local context. So you might want it to be catered and managed within a local municipality, but there's definitely a lot of benefits as well to scaling it up and operating at a regional scale. So we have definitely seen a number of what we call consortiums of municipalities coming together and applying to CEF, where typically there will be an external administrator that takes care of, sort of the coordination of services and everything that happens behind the scenes, and also, working with homeowners throughout this process. But at the same time, there's still a role for municipalities to play and make sure that their needs are well reflected in the way it's rolled out locally. So to answer your question, yes, there's we certainly support regional programs within CEF, but that decision is up to you.
Okay, that's great. And then another more operational question, can the funding for operations be used for staff time to administer the program, either existing staff or for new hires?
Great question. And, the quick answer is yes, of course. We want to enable municipalities to really operate their community efficiency financing program as they feel fit. So for instance, if you need to hire new staff, by all means, that would be an eligible cost, of course, under the funding agreement that you would sign with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. So thanks for that question.
Great, and there's also a few questions coming in about rebates. Jasmine, you mentioned that rebates and financing work best when combined. One person was asking whether or not you knew of any rebate opportunities that might be coming. We've also heard that there's a new federal grant program from Natural Resources Canada related to homeowners and completing home energy retrofits. Can you comment a little bit more on some of the specifics that you're aware of there and how that works best with the financing program?
Sure, I can kick us off, and Jim, feel free to add to my answer if there's anything I miss. That's a packed question. I'll start off with the rebates side of things. So what we hope that you'll do is, especially if applying for CEF at the study stage, is use some of that grant funding to assess what's already out there. So get a sense of what rebates, incentives, and other kinds of supports, as well as getting a sense of the number of energy advisors and contractors, and trying to understand really what your starting point is in order to then build on it, right? So there's no reason to duplicate rebates necessarily, right? The rebates are often set by the utilities within the province, so they do vary a lot from one province to the next. So I can't really tell you what your landscape looks like in your province, but we can certainly help you discover that through our funding and other resources. And responding, sorry, to the federal piece as well, the last that I'm aware of is that they've announced that the Green Homes program, I believe it's called, will be offering, will be covering the cost of a certain number of home energy evaluations. So that would fit in very well within a CEF supported program. So the idea is, like I said, you're getting a sense of what's existing out there. You direct homeowners to access it, and then actually within your program supported by CEF as well, you can offer additional rebates and incentives if you would like to, in order to really make this offer as attractive as possible.
Yeah, well, very well said, Jasmine. So in a nutshell, any rebates or other programs that may come on board that include grants, it can be very complementary to the community efficiency financing program that you'll be designing within your own community. It can also form part of your sources of funding as well. So for instance, and I just saw in the chat that there was Save on Energy, I believe, in Ontario. So let's say there's a rebate for a heat pump, for instance, and within your own program design, you want to help finance heat pumps. So you can see that the rebate, if let's say it's $1,000 to go towards heat pumps from the province, well, then you would finance the remaining amount of that within your own community efficiency financing program.
That's great, and I'm also seeing a lot of questions in here and some examples of sharing already in the chat about looking for examples of good practices, examples of feasibility studies that we can learn from. So I would again encourage folks to take a look at the resource library as a starting place that has a list of some of the programs that are active or have been active currently. If there's other examples, I would say, Jim, Jasmine, would you recommend Any other particular feasibility studies or contacts that people might be able to reach out to for more information? Should they contact you directly? What will be the best way for folks to get more specifics on those types of, on accessing a feasibility study as an example?
Sure. So I would sort of recommend that you get in touch with either myself or Jim. We try to offer examples really based on what you're looking for. So we have a very extensive resource database and things like that. We have a lot that we can share. So just making sure that you're getting the information you're looking for. I would advise you to get in touch with us. But we do have the resource library as well on our website, where you'll, I think, be able to find some, if not some examples of studies, then some guides on how to develop your own.
Okay, that's great. One a little bit more of a specific question. Can you speak at all to CMHC or the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation's position on PACE programs? This ties in a little bit with this discussion already about the federal, other federal rebate programs and that kind of thing.
Sure. So CMHC has been very supportive with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities launch of the Community Efficiency Financing Program. We've been in several discussions with CMHC as well, just how to move forward in partnership and discussing, how we can allow for entry into this otherwise new marketplace, including the banking sector, of course. So they're very well aware of our program, and we're well aware of CMHC's position as well. And we are working together to provide more information and more resources and to help municipalities engage perhaps more with the private sector as well.
And just to add to what Jim said, through our discussions, we've been trying to find solutions to bring down the risk of mortgage insurers, and as a result, we've made a loan loss provision a requirement for PACE programs. So when reading up on the offer or speaking with one of us, you'll see that we ask that 5% of your budget be set aside in case there are defaults on the loan. And the idea there is, again, to reassure the lenders and insurers that the risk is really quite minimal.
That's great. Thank you both. There's also lots of great questions coming in here about designing the specifics of the program and best practices in terms of both completing feasibility studies and your project design. One question in particular was about designing a program that can be inclusive of buildings, not just single family homes, but also businesses, larger institutions and community buildings and that kind of thing. How would you propose to structure a program, or what are the different ways that you can create something that is inclusive of all building types and wouldn't necessarily be focused on just one particular building type or building profile?
So for this specific funding program, we are concentrating on single family home dwellings, also townhouses, for instance. So to include or incorporate other building types, you can, of course, within your feasibility study and program design. And when we get into, say, the capitalization of your program itself, other building types may not be an eligible cost at that point under the terms of our funding agreements. But there is an opportunity to perhaps fund that under a different sector. We have a signature funding that we call it at the Green Municipal Fund, and we may be able to fit commercial buildings and other types of community buildings under that, that funding stream. We will be launching specific funding for community buildings in April as well, so you can look forward to that.
And I'll just add to Jim's response. There's a couple example of projects where we've seen different phases. So the first phase, focuses on low-rise residential. And once you sort of get a feel for how that's going and have some lessons learned, then you can continue to scale up to target more and more types of buildings within the community and really have an impact, an even greater impact on the greenhouse gas targets in your community.
I should add, if you are seriously thinking of, let's say, commercial PACE, please feel free to reach out to us and we can provide guidance, and perhaps we could help fund that as well in parallel with your application for the Community Efficiency Financing Program. So always keep that in mind, and hopefully we can help you with that type of building too.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Jim, for that. I think on a similar note, we also had a question asking a little bit more information or more context on the pilot project funding. Can you elaborate on when that would specifically apply and how that might be different from, say, the signature initiative?
Definitely, and great question. So whoever asked that, thank you so much. So we are hopeful that we can fund pilots on a limited basis. And the reason being is that there are provinces or regions that allow PACE type projects to move forward. So they have PACE legislation from the province implemented already. So for instance, in Ontario, it may be a bit difficult to fund a pilot per se, but perhaps in British Columbia, where there's no PACE legislation to date, we would be interested in helping municipalities and their partners there to explore what a community efficiency financing program may look like in lieu of PACE legislation. And that way, we're really pushing the envelope in terms of innovation across the country and helping to support communities that don't have PACE legislation as well. So we're trying to obviously push forward in those areas that may not have PACE legislation yet, or for instance, in Saskatchewan, when PACE legislation is implemented, maybe a municipality would want to try initialize a pilot there. And I'm just throwing that out as an idea.
Great, thanks, Jim. And on that note as well, I think another good question to ask would be, are there examples of programs where credit unions have been both financing and administering the programs? I think it's especially helpful in those contexts where PACE isn't enabled currently for folks to understand, what are the different options that are available to them for working with the third party.
Well, we can look at, the example of Durham, which we spoke at during the presentation. They are working with credit unions, but credit unions and other financial institutions, really their expertise is, financing. So it's very easy for them to provide loans, to have access to the capital needed to provide those loans. They have underwriting processes in place. They're very well equipped to take care of that finance piece. But in terms of administering all of the complexity and the pieces that go into a program like this, we've seen that we often need to bring in an external, sort of administrator with expertise in the energy efficiency and renewable energy sector. So like I was saying, in the Durham example, that's exactly what they're going to be doing. So they're able to partner with the credit unions to offer attractive loans to homeowners, and at the same time offer all of these support systems to sort of complement that financial offering.
Well said, Jasmine. And just to add to that, if you're going to work with a financial institution, of course, their expertise is about financing and providing money towards these types of programs. And I believe that's full stop at this point in time. And I'm just going to piggyback on what Jasmine said. So, for a financial institution to be an administrator, it's probably not going to work too well. And that's where municipalities and their partners with their expertise step in and bring that administrative knowledge and expertise. And I just want to clarify or highlight that really the overall purpose of this funding program, the Community Efficiency Financing Program, is to allow innovative financing mechanisms to move forward and perhaps stand on their own two legs without funding support from governments. And that's really what we state as the end goal. So we're trying to create and expand this market across Canada And then perhaps what could happen in the future is that it can move forward with more private sector financing, as we've seen in the United States already.
And I believe you touched on this a little bit in your answer, but just to add some additional clarity, the municipality can partner with a credit union and still be eligible for the CEF program. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, of course. And I guess really the point worth highlighting in my answer to that is give some thought about who you'd like to see as lead applicant. The lead applicant is the one who will receive the funds from GMF, who the invoices will be addressed to, the ones sort of signing the contract. And so normally financial institutions and including credit unions won't want to be the ones on the contract, but that doesn't mean that they can't participate in a program like this. And that's really where the role of the municipality can be quite important and impactful.
That's great. I've also seen a few questions. I know we're a little bit short on time here, but maybe a quick comment for folks. I've seen a few questions asking about whether or not FCM can offer guidance or experience in helping connect folks with third-party vendors, supporting software platforms, energy enhancements, assessments, as well as access to things to services like energy advisors. Jasmine or Jim, can you comment on FCM's role there, or who else you might be able to suggest that could play that role in terms of helping to convene different stakeholders and connect municipalities with the folks that they need to help operationalize these programs?
Shall I, Jim? I'll start by answering the question, and again, feel free to add. It's often the person who answers is the one who gets to the mic first. Essentially, the role of GMF is to, on the one hand, provide financing and grants and all of that kind of financial support, as well as on the other hand, those resources, capacity building activities, things like that. But in terms of doing the consultation, the advocacy, that sort of thing, our role is a little bit more indirect, right? Because you want your program to be really suited to the local context, and that requires, ideally, even some existing relationships that you might be able to leverage with utilities in the province, as well as existing credit unions and things like that. You're normally, better positioned than we are to lead those kinds of conversations. So we really do encourage you to take that on, and it's certainly something that we hope that you'll do right from the early stages. So at the feasibility stage, and you can certainly count part of the grant funding that we provide towards that consultation process with key stakeholders in your community.
That's a great answer, Jasmine. Thanks for that. I'm still seeing lots of questions coming in, but I am conscious of time, so I think we are going to stop there. That said, if you still have questions or if you'd like to discuss anything with either Jim or Jasmine directly, please don't hesitate to reach out. If we go to the next slide, you'll see again our contact information, so you can get in touch, and we can help answer those questions. A few folks are also asking if we would be providing the PowerPoint slides. In the chat right now, we are sending a link to a few key takeaway slides. So this isn't the presentation in its entirety, but it does at least provide an overview of the funding offer and some of those kind of higher level information pieces that we want you to take away from today's presentation. As I mentioned, this has also been recorded, so it should be the recording will be available on our website and on our YouTube page in just a few weeks. So thank you again, Jim and Jasmine, for your time today. Thank you to all of you for your attendance and engagement. Before you go, we are sending another link in the chat among many, which will also be in the follow-up email. So that's just a short survey where we would really appreciate your feedback to help us understand how to better shape our future webinars and our other activities to best suit your needs. As I mentioned, contact info is on the screen, as well as the links to our website and to our weekly newsletter. And with that, I thank you all again for your attendance today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.